Retired Army Lieutenant Colonel Daniel Davis, foreign policy and defense expert, also a senior fellow at Defense Priorities, is with us. So obviously, this is a big event because it's not often, if ever, you get the leaders of South Korea and Japan together, given, again, historic differences. Here's how the Washington Post put it in an op-ed from Max Boot and Sumi Terry. Quote, "This represents another major step toward the establishment of a new trilateral alliance that could help all three nations cope with the growing threats from North Korea and China in a world destabilized by the Russian invasion of Ukraine." Your thoughts about the summit?
Yeah, I think this is really important. It has a lot of potential, a lot of positive potential. It's hard to believe that this is the first time that the leaders of these three countries have actually met together in a specific trilateral agreement. As long as we've had, the allies have been, many decades. So that by itself shows that there's a lot of positive developments. But I think one of the bigger things for the United States is it is in our interest to have strong allies, both economically and militarily, as opposed to, honestly, in Europe, there's a lot of dependence on the United States, and they don't take their national security seriously. They want us to kind of provide that for them. This one, both South Korea and Japan are stepping up their military capacities, and that's in America's interest to have a mutual situation where we both benefit. But I will say that there comes with a warning that this can't just be a military-focused situation, because then that will raise the ire of China. We need to also include diplomacy, because we want to get along with it. Both the United States, Japan, and South Korea have a huge trade with China. So we need to foster that while keeping ourselves safe. And that's the key thing.
What do you make of the Chinese response to this? The former Secretary of State Mike Pompeo indicated this morning on America's Newsroom that the Chinese have a tendency to elevate whining to an art form.
Well, I mean, yeah, they truly do, and nothing else would be expected. It's certainly not in their interest to have some of their competitors working together. They like to keep everybody separate and keep on separate tracks so that they remain the dominant force, in every way. And this is something that they don't like, because it takes some of the power away from Beijing. And, of course, that can be a good thing if we use it wisely.
So will this be enough to contain China's designs on Taiwan? The final communique from this summit might not even mention China by name.
Yeah, I don't think it'll have any impact on it. China's going to make their decisions based on their national interest and what they think they can do. And, of course, they have always calculated, because we have already defense relationships with both South Korea and Japan. So that was already on the table. So this won't change that too much. But it could certainly make you have at least second thoughts about it, depending on how tight the cooperation is. So anything that diminishes war is a good thing.
Dan, the United States has slowly been kind of shifting supply chain sourcing away from China to other countries, but The Economist takes a look at this in the whole and says, this really isn't working. It's all just kind of smoke and mirrors. In an editorial, they say Joe Biden's China strategy is not working. Much of the decoupling is phony. Worse, from Mr. Biden's perspective, his approach is also deepening the economic links between China and other exporting countries. In so doing, it perversely pits their interests against America. Even where governments are worried about the growing assertiveness of China, their commercial relationships with the biggest economy in Asia are deepening. What The Economist is saying is, okay, maybe we're not getting things from China. We're getting them from Vietnam, Indonesia, Malaysia, places like that. But still, a lot of the raw materials are coming from China. So they're just repackaging Chinese stuff.
Well, they are. And apparently, at least from what's been reported, is that the whole issue of supply chain diversification is going to be a part of this trilateral summit. So I'm very advocate that the United States do pursue ways to domestic produce these kinds of things, to get them out of the Chinese, ability to even influence. So anything that moves it away from a dependence on China, and I hope that is a real part of this, so that they do, add other things in there, not from Chinese, moving the shell game around here. So if that does result, then this is a good thing. If it is just smoke and mirrors, then that's not going to help us.
We're not exactly sure what the schedule is in Camp David, but the leaders might come out and talk. So if you could hang around, we'd appreciate it, Dan. We'll come back to you.
Will do.
All right. Appreciate that. Thank you.